Hey everybody, thanks for joining us for the third episode of The When of Bobby V. In case you missed the first couple, The When on Bobby V is the play on words of the documentary about Bobby and the Zen of Bobby V that followed Bobby and I through our year in Japan, which was great. If you haven't seen it, check it out. But we're talking about the when of baseball, which has become such a prominent part of teaching in the game. And here we are with Bobby V. Hey, Bobby.
Brent, great to be with you and all of the BVS staff and followers out there. Let's have a great when of Bobby V today.
So anything prominent in your last couple of weeks since we did the show that came up that you want to address first and foremost in terms of the when?
Well, I guess you wanted to mention Franco's little play at shortstop and when you would do something like that.
Yeah, when does that happen? It's gonna, when it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen with every little kid right now.
Well, one comment is that with the pitch clock now in Major League Baseball, everything's happening so quickly that the game is a quicker game. There's no doubt about that. But there's not a lot of time for the players to be individuals. It's not a lot of time for anyone to show anything. And I think Wander Franco felt that while his team was playing better than any team in Major League history. And he's one of the really fine players on that team and one of the fine players in Major League Baseball. He decided to do a little something that might catch someone's attention. The walk-up songs are shorter. There's no bat flipping because everyone's trying to run around the bases. Guys can't even get their elbow guards on when they get to first base. It's such a rushed production, and he just added a little something to the production. But let me say this. If he dropped the ball, if I was the manager, he'd be taken out of the game. If he does it again, he'd probably be taken out of the game because, at the Major League level, games are precious commodities. Wins are precious commodities, and you can't be messing with a win. But I thought it was pretty cool.
It was pretty cool. It got a big reaction, didn't it?
Oh, boy. I mean, a little thing like that got such a big reaction because there's such a void of any personalities being seen in Major League Baseball these days.
So do you think that that's hurting the game, that the game is definitely speeding up? They've accomplished what they want to accomplish, but is it taking that fun element that the kids like so much out of the game?
Well, I think you have to think about going to a Broadway show and having the show be really quick and really efficient, but none of the stars getting a chance to be up front and center stage. And I think that, as you're making the game better, you got to remember the game's about the players and also about the fans. So you're taking care of the fans by speeding it up, but you have to make sure that the players are being recognized as the great talents they are, and that everyone's just not this methodical 20-second, let's get ready, throw the ball, get it in the box, swing the bat, run, get out of there. I think there needs to be a little more emphasis on the player. The pendulum will swing back, I think, once we get this pitch clock in vogue, and that's one of the unintended consequences of the pitch clock, I think. And the other one is the injuries, Frank. That when is a guy going to be able to rest while he's out on the mound, and when is he going to get hurt because he's throwing too many pitches without enough recovery? You're seeing a lot now. We had a kid here with the Angels that, I kept saying, after 15 pitches, you have to start putting some checks and balances in place. And he threw 27 pitches. The next thing you know, he's having Tommy John.
So are you hearing complaints from players?
Oh, I think once it warms up, you're going to hear a lot of complaints by players. Yeah. And again, you see this first pitch swinging. Everyone's wondering, why are there so many first pitch swinging? Well, because that's the at bat. That's the part of the at bat that the players are the most confident that they are ready to hit. They kind of got their stuff together. They're ready to do their checklist. They do their checklist. They step into the box, and they're ready to see the ball and hit it. They want to get out of there after that, because that 2-2 count now and 3-1 count, when everyone's wondering, do I step out now to collect my thoughts after 5 pitches of being rushed through the at-bat? Sometimes it's with some guys it's getting very confusing.
So the new rules of the game has created a major when they're swinging.
It's about when you take that timeout, when the pitching coach goes to the mound, when the catcher goes to the mound, when you take your timeout as a hitter, when you decide you're just going to attack right on this pitch. But, that new when is causing, players to adjust. And major league players have adjusted all their life. What they do best in life is adjust, and that's why they're major league players. But this one's causing some concern with a lot of people in the game.
So the first pitch swinging is certainly a trend that you're seeing. Any other trends that you've seen that a lot of people have adapted with the new time clock?
Not that they've adapted, but you have to remember this one, that there won't be balks called on left-handers who try to pick guys off first, because it's the home plate umpire's job to determine whether or not he's stepping home or stepping towards first when they call the balk on the step. And now the home plate umpire is watching the clock, watching the hitter engage with the pitcher, watching all of these other things, and they missed it totally on the step. Guys are stepping right to home and throwing the first, and no one's even considering calling a balk.
New to everybody.
Yeah, it's new, and they're adjusting.
Here's an interesting when. Zach's game, West Virginia game. First and third situation, the count got to 2 strikes. The catcher went out in front of the plate to give his first and third signs, and while he did, the batter was waiting outside the batter's box. And the catcher went out and went through all his signs, and it took long enough that the batter was not in the batter's box long enough. They called the third strike on the hitter. There's no catcher down, there's no umpire down, and they called the third strike, end the inning on the hitter, which
that's great.
It was reviewed. It was reviewed, and it took 10 minutes, and it was overturned.
Well, I'm glad it was.
They got it right, but how about that? The guy's standing there waiting for the catcher to give his signs, and he gets called out on third strike.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. There have been a couple third strike calls. And again, you have to make sure that you enforce these rules to the T, so that when you do start adjusting, you're adjusting from a consistent point. And there will be adjustments made as they go forward, but it can't be made from a random selection of guys doing things differently. So uniformity is important right now.
Okay. So a lot of rule stuff there. There are new rules. Back to some of the when things. I know we talked about a little bit, and the new technique in stealing bases, and the when that extra shuffle step takes place. I heard some people talking about there's very common pitch timing when pitchers deliver, that it's either on 1 second or on 4 seconds, and the leads take place then. You want to touch on that a little? Well,
first off, let's remember, just as on second base, when the pitcher is left-handed and he looks out at second base and he starts to turn away, once he turns away and it has his focus towards first base and then home plate, when he gets to first base, he can no longer see the runner who's taking his lead off a second. So that's the time that you do a little shuffle step, keeping your shoulders square and doing a shuffle to create momentum. If he, in fact, gets to home and then inside moves you or turns around, because you're keeping your shoulders square and you're shuffling, you could step on that right foot, stop, and get back with a dive. And that's basically the technique that they're using at first base, that they're trying to time this shuffle, keeping your shoulders square with a little shuffle and momentum. If it's timed right and on that right foot coming down that the pitcher's starting to throw to the plate, you take off and you're safe easily at second base. That technique has been taught for years. Guys got away from it because managers would call the sequencing of what the pitcher would do to hold the runner, to stop the runner.
Oh, wow.
Remember that, baby, that back when they were stealing 100 bases, often that was a lead that was taken. Then the managers took charge and they started telling everyone when to throw to first, when to hold it, when to pitch out, when to pitch to the plate, when to pitch quickly with a quick step. That no longer is in vogue because there's not time between pitches for the manager, the dugout, who's watching the runner at all times, to get the information to the catcher, to get the information to the pitcher, for the pitcher to hold the runner with the sequencing. So it's really easy to take advantage of pitchers today, especially young pitchers. And just the FYI, the reason the managers took over the base running control was because it was known and collected information from pitchers that when they're out there, they need concentration on one thing. They need either that they're going to throw to first, or that they're going to hold it, or that they're going to throw to home. If there's divided concentration, the pickoff move won't be as good, the hold won't be as effective, and the pitch won't be as productive. So everyone took it out of the pitcher's hands and said, hey, you just get ready to throw unless you're notified to do something different. Well, that's new for pitchers now on the hump because they're taking the responsibility themselves as to when to throw over, and it's been real tough for major league pitchers to make that adjustment.
That's great insight that most people don't think about. That's awesome. So, yeah, you're an innovator. You always have been. Were you? Did you implement that shuffle steal technique timing back when you were managing?
Oh yeah, we had not only did we have the shuffle, but we also had, which you're going to see come back, we had the first baseman who played off the bag in front of the runner. And what the play is you get in front of the base runner and then you time what you think the pitcher is going, when you think the pitcher is ready to pitch to the plate, you just time a little movement back to the base with your head and your shoulders. The runner's behind you, that automatically freezes the runner and allows the pitcher to pitch. If they were to do that, and I know that teams are going to do it, the Angels haven't quite gotten the timing down yet because the Angels have been playing without their first baseman. There's been like a rotating group of guys playing first base who aren't first basemen, so they don't really have the timing with the pitchers that they need. But I'll bet you'll see the Mets pull it back out because they're running wild against them. I'll bet you'll see when Cleveland comes in and to play the Yankees, I'll bet you'll see the Yankees. And if you don't see them doing it, shame on them, because that's one of the ways to negate that shuffle and that quick break that guys are getting.
And didn't we have something similar to that in a bunt situation, first and second, where the first baseman was playing in front of the runner and doing that same thing? That
Sure.
little jab step back to first?
When we try to, when we would be getting the play at second base.
Yeah. Speaking of the play.
You have the charge play and you want the out at second base. You just make sure you freeze that runner at first and then have that third baseman, first baseman charge, and you'll get a shot at the guy at second. Yeah.
Speaking of that play at second base, and you were talking about the pitcher looking back, we know for sure that the exact amount of time that it takes for most pitchers to make that turn is Kobayashi. Another pickoff play that we had.
It's just yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
Right.
And I don't know if you've seen any of the Angel games, but you know when an Angel hitter hits a home run, they put that Kabuto.
Was that you or Otani? It had to be, right?
Yeah, so Otani. And what that symbolizes, for whatever it's worth, is now in Japan, kind of Boys' Day. Today is Boys' Day. It's Cinco de Mayo. It's the 5th of May. But in Japan, it's Boys' Day. And Boys' Day in Japan, everyone wears a hat. And the samurai helmet is the symbol of Boys' Day. So you can get to the bank or get to the Bobby V's restaurant and put on a bet that Otani's hitting a home run today.
Ooh, you hear that? You got some action. So just one other little comment, spent 6 years in Japan. Every day was Boys' Day, in my opinion.
For your boy, sure.
My boys too, yeah.
Hey, Frank, maybe one of these things on the when. Let's do quick on when. When do they, you said first and third play, just for the coaches out there, like when do you throw to second base and when do you not throw to second base on first and third? So when there's first and third, the catcher comes out, he's giving signs. He's either going to say, hey, we're going to try to pick the guy off third on this pitch, or we're going to throw through if they steal, or I'm going to hold it if they steal. Some guys have plays where you throw it back to the pitcher if he steals, throw it to the shortstop, second baseman who come up short, and they're cut off men when they steal. But what should the manager be thinking about as to when you throw to second?
There's a lot of factors, right? There's the score of the game, who the hitter is, who the runner is, what the situation is. Are you getting any hits? And I know you're going to add your thoughts to it, but I also think there's a thought to it at the younger levels that doesn't happen in the big leagues very often. But many of those teams design plays that runner takes off, and as soon as the ball is in the air, that runner stops, and they're initiating that rundown. And they're counting on those younger players not being able to execute multiple throws, and they steal a run.
Well, that's exactly right. And we could talk about stopping and when you stop also, but just to complete the thought, an easy thought for the older coaches out there, not Little League where it's just helter-skelter,
right.
But if the team is trying to steal a base, you throw to second. If they're trying to steal a run, you hold the ball. That's like one of those little notes that you put in. Hey, there's a real slow runner at third and a fast runner at second. If this guy goes, they're not going to try to steal a run with a slow runner at third. They're trying to steal a base to get two guys in scoring position. So try to throw him out. If it's tie score and 2 outs in the 9th inning, and then on first and third, and the guy goes, you know that he's trying to steal the run because it's a tie score. He wants to get one up on you, so you don't throw the ball to second. You give him the base, and then you pitch with first base open. It's just that quick thought. Then the other thing is, when do you throw from the outfield and not hit the cutoff man? Yeah, when do we do that? We do that, as you know, Frank, when there's not a trail runner, right? So if the guy's at third base and it's a sacrifice fly to the outfield, hey, you can airmail that as an outfielder all the way to home on the fly. You don't need a cutoff to throw that ball to home plate. But if there's a man on first who's also tagging, you better make sure you hit that cutoff man so that they can cut it and get the guy at second if your throw's not going to get to home plate. So when do you not use the cutoff man? When there's not a trail runner. How about when do you dive in the outfield? When do you dive for the ball? Well, first off, we always make sure in the outfield that you look at the person who's on your side, on the side of you, and that's a center fielder has two people on the side. And as before that hitter comes to the plate, you decide who's going to dive and who's going to back up. So depending on your outfield alignment, what side the glove's on, who has the great speed and not the great speed, you say as a center fielder, hey, I'm diving, you back me up. That gives you the courage to go for that ball knowing someone's backing up and that you're not going to collide with them. So when do you do that? You do it when the hitter is less than the tying run. So if there's 2 outs, 9th inning, you have a 2-run lead, and the hitter hits a sinking line drive, dive for that ball, because that 3rd out keeps the tying run from coming to the plate. If you don't dive for it and it bounces, the tying run comes to the plate anyway. If the ball goes by you, it still isn't going to cost the game because the tying run, again, is the next hitter, not that hitter. When do you throw the ball to second base and not try to get the lead runner? That's when you want to keep the double play in order. Ball hit down the left field line, runner at first, who's running first to third. You pick that ball up at the line and turn and throw it to second base to keep the double play in order, or to keep the tying run from going to second. You don't throw to third to try to get the lead runner there. You throw behind the lead runner when that batter runner is the tying run or the go-ahead run. Always good idea, if there's less than 2 outs, to keep the double play in order. A lot of whens out there.
And
what else you got?
Those are great things, Bobby, and I'm going to throw a when at you in regards to this. I mean, that's great stuff, and hopefully some people are going to learn from this, and coaches are going to use these strategies and understand why they have. But when do players learn how to do this? We're trying to work on fundamentals and catching and throwing and in team practices. This is something that has to be taught, has to be understood, has to be taught, and has to be done in practices throughout these players' careers. And we talked about when we first started our first segment, we said so many of these whens that you're going to talk about will be the difference between winning and losing ball games. There's some great examples right there. When you execute those whens properly and you throw to the cutoff man in the right time and not in the other time and throw to the right base, they win ball games.
Yes.
When do you learn it?
When you say, when do you teach it? We have never put that video together, and it probably would be helpful. But coaches out there, if you're going to have a when session of practice, try to get a video of the play you're trying to practice. Send it out to your players so they can see it before they practice it. The first and third play, or even the throw in the second, or the shuffle play, or any plays that you're trying to work on. Because a lot of these kids, remember, are visual learners. They don't learn when you get in a group and you tell them what to do. They learn when they see it happening, and it's good if a coach takes the time to put together some videos that will emphasize what they're trying to teach.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff. We should do that video.
It'd be a cool video for us to do. Of course, everyone would copy it and call it theirs, and that's okay.
Baseball gets better, right? Baseball gets better. So I know you have a little bit of a time restraint, and we have you had offered to anybody who's listening to send in their videos, and we would do a little analysis of their swings. And after our last episode, somebody actually did take us up on it. And Mike Stacy sent, I believe his son's name is also Mike, sent in a video of him in our place hitting and wanted to do a little analysis for him on his swing. So I know you've looked at it before. I know you don't have it in front of you right now, but you're going to. So would you like to make some comments on Mike's swing?
Yeah, Michael, nice swing. Good job. And understand what you're doing there in practice are the components of a swing. But, your first movement is taking your right foot and stepping back with it. You won't have time your entire career to step back before you start your swing. But what you should do is look at your own video and understand what that step back is doing. That's allowing you to take the weight of your body and put it all on your back foot. Good job. But what you also want to do is make sure it's on the inside part of your back leg and not over your back leg. A couple of the swings that you take when you step back, your weight will go back over your foot. You want it to go back against that leg so that it's a firm movement. And then you swing your front leg a little back as it goes forward. I would suggest that you lift that front leg a little before it goes forward, and you turn your foot out so that your kind of the bottom of your foot is pointing toward the pitcher. What that does, Michael, that little foot action, you probably watch some videos or listen to some guys talk about initiating the back hip, getting the back hip in a place where it's ready to coil and then uncoil. Well, that little foot movement, if you try to do it, will ignite your back hip and get you ready then to do what you do very well. And that is take your stride, your front leg comes down. When your front heel comes down, your back heel was coming up. Good job. And then stop that movement going forward as you do with a firm front side, and then propel the bat forward. Your bat swing is a good swing. Your back plane is a good plane. When you made contact, your top hand was facing up and your bottom hand was facing down. So good job, Michael. Good practice stepping back. Understand you can't do that in the game. You don't have enough of time, but understand why you're stepping back, and then practice just moving that weight back as you lift your front leg, and you'll have it all together.
So just my 2 cents, Bobby, and that's great stuff. Tough to add to that. I know you're not looking at the video right now, but just another thing. At contact, perfect position, but just a little more extension through the ball. Looks like he wants to roll his hands over really quickly and finish the swing. Finish the swing through the ball. Continue driving that barrel back towards the pitcher. And on another note, Mike, you got to tie your shoes, buddy. Both your shoes are untied in the video, so that's helpful. So that was awesome, Bobby. To get that analysis from you is incredible, and we throw that out to anybody else who wants to send us your video. We'd be happy to go over it and give you some pointers and keep you doing the right things mechanically and keep teaching you about the when in the game of baseball. So, Bobby, I know you got to jump, right?
I got to jump, Frank, but, let's figure out when we can do this again because it's fun.
Okay, we'll see you soon. Thanks, Bobby.